Handoff Jeanty to the right side. Jeanty sheds a tackler, 30-40, 50-40. It's a foot race, 30, 20, 10. Another one-play drive for Ashton Jeanty. 75 yards on the score. Kickoff taken by Riley. Riley to the 20, Riley to the 30. He is gone. Boise State is going to get a kick return for a touchdown from Dylan Riley. 3rd and goal from the 2. Crow is the fullback. Dubar is the tailback. Madsen hands it off to Dubar. Up the middle, he scores. Breezy Dubar with the touchdown. His first of the season. And the Breezy Bundle will happen this week.
Well, the boise-state football team moves to 4-1 with a blowout victory over Utah State to open up Mountain West Conference play. Welcome on in to Jay Sports Bar, Jay Tust, alongside former Boise State wide receiver Shane Williams-Rhodes. And what we're going to do here today on this show is something a little different. We're just going to have a really good first half, and then we're just going to sit here and just do nothing for the second half of the show. Almost just kind of sit in silence. We're going to call it the Ashton Jeanty method.
Yep. I love that method, you know. It makes games a lot less stressful.
Imagine if you were so good at your job that you just only had to work a half a day.
That would be great.
Wouldn't that be great? You pack 8 hours worth of work into 4 hours, or during football season, 14 hours of work into 7 hours.
It's true.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And you just take the rest of the day off. That has become, you know, what Ashton Jeanty and this team has kind of been known for. They blow out Portland State a few weeks ago. Ashton Jeanty doesn't touch the ball in the second half. They blow out Utah State 62-30, and then Ashton doesn't play in the second half at all. What do you just initially? There are some opinions about this, Shane, and some of them annoy me. I'm not going to lie. What is your opinion about having Ashton not play in the second half?
I think that's the best decision for the program as far as planning for the future, because we are going to have some games here. I mean, it could be a UNLV game where, you know, things just aren't clicking as well as they usually are, and you might need to give them 30 carries. And having 30 carries every week over the time, it's just a better chance of getting hurt.
Yeah, I've said this before, by the way. Like, I always thought that the Utah State game, that kind of went as scripted. In all honesty, Boise State probably scored a few more points, but also gave up a few more points than I initially thought. I think the Hawaii game is going to be very similar, where Boise State puts this thing away and Ashton Jeanty has a monster first half, and we're going to be looking at him just kind of resting the second half again. And then he has the bye week, and then against UNLV, which is, I mean, that might be the biggest conference game left on the schedule. You unleash hell. Like, you turn them loose, like you did against Oregon, like you did against Washington State, where he plays deep into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think that's great, especially with the bye week coming up. I mean, he has a chance to go into a bye week fresh, because you got one half, you play another half next week, and then you got another week off.
Think about what this is doing for him, though, for the long haul. Yeah. And Latrell Capels actually said this to me a few weeks ago. And it had nothing to do with Ashton Jeanty, just like how long the season's going to be. And it was when they blew out Portland State and just getting young guys in, right? That's what we're talking about. And, you know, I think a big emphasis on this team is finding a way to stay fresh, stay healthy, because as Latrell Capel said, they plan on playing in a college football playoff. And if you make a run, if you play in a Mountain West Conference championship game, if you play in the first round and win it and go to the the quarterfinals, I guess it would be, and then you got the semifinals and the championship game. I mean, that's an NFL season basically.
Yep.
So they're not. This is just a different circumstance. A team with different goals that they have to be very intentional about things. And if you bring Ashton Jeanty back, you know, this year, they have some level of responsibility to take care of that dude. And I love the fact that they're getting young guys in and rotating in, because I feel like it's been a long, long time, Shane, since Boise State has not only been in the position to do that, but actually did it. Like, you know, there were times in the past where I felt like even in games where you guys would get up big, it's not like there were these mass substitutions.
Yeah.
Now it's like early, mid-third quarter, like the entire second string is in a game.
Yeah, they're coming out of halftime with guys getting experience, which is good, because it's great for the future, because obviously next year there's no way we are going to have Ashton Jeanty in the backfield. So getting these other guys, you know, just involved and trying to figure out what our identity is without him is really good.
Guy, you wouldn't know anything about it because you were too good to redshirt, right? Mr. 233.
I did not redshirt.
Right,
yes,
but there are new NCAA rules that you can even redshirt this season but still play in a few games. But Like, if you didn't play, everybody, I know that, like, if you redshirt, there are certain benefits to it, and you can get bigger and, you know, hit the weight room and, you know, have a better understanding of the playbook and all these things. And just, by the way, life outside of football, like classes and all that stuff. I know it's a big adjustment. But seriously, like, you playing as a freshman, how much did that lead into a really successful sophomore campaign for you?
Just you get the feel of the game and how fast everyone is, and you know you're coming from high school, so you don't really understand it until you're actually out there. Understand that some of these linebackers are just as fast as you, some of these corners are faster than you, and so it was. I mean, it's just every year it just seems like to get easier and easier and easier. So it's huge that they get to play in those 4 and still redshirt.
I think it's awesome, and I think that Boise State's doing a good job of, you know, putting guys in the situation to be able to do that. And another thing I really like about it too is it gives you this little bit of a grace period where you can evaluate a guy to see if he is ready. Dylan Riley, for example. I really do think when you look at, especially when Sire Gaines was healthy and how deep that running back room was, you know, I think initially you think like, hey, best case scenario, we get Dylan and Riley into 4 games. We still redshirt him, preserve that year of eligibility, but some things change, some things happen, and now when Dylan's been in the game, he's proven he can handle it. So now, you know what? Go ahead and play the kid. Like, you don't have to worry about the 4-game limit in his case.
Yeah, it's just that running back room is just, it's kind of a weird situation going on there because, I mean, it's a problem, but it's a good problem. We have so many guys, and they all are just so different. They aren't the same backs. And so
they are different.
It's going to be interesting how they choose to plug and play those, especially with getting the ability to have a whole half to let them just run with it.
Yeah, I love seeing Breezy Dubar come back, and he certainly looked pretty good, scored a touchdown. You know, they're giving away the Breezy bundle for $1 over at Jackson's. You eat your hot dog and soda? No, I'm just kidding. He looked good. You know, no Sire Gaines again, and I still think we're going to have to be a little patient with that one. But you look at Breezy's final numbers, 65 yards on 9 carries, 7.2 average, had a touchdown along the 22. Dylan Riley, a few touches, you know, 8 carries, 16 yards, you know, not crazy efficiency. At that point in time in the game, you're just trying to get to the end of the game, though. But you said different runners. Those guys are kind of straight line runners. Ashton is everything.
You just
but
plug and play.
That's why I think it's important to get Sire Gaines back at some point in time, because he has that ability, I think, he is a little bit more of a, you know, he brings a real level of physicality to his runs, I think. So I think it would be nice to get him back. Don't want to compare him to Ashton because that's unfair, but I think you put him in this and it just really complements that backfield a whole lot more. Getting back to Ashton before we move on, there is this narrative out there on social media and stuff right now that he's hurting his Heisman chances by not playing in the second half. I could not disagree more with that. And it's subjective in the sense that, that's just the way that I feel, and we can debate about it and all that stuff. But it's also literal in the fact that last week, before the Utah State game, he was 10-1 to win the Heisman, which he's already massively increased his chances. After everybody said, against Portland State, he only had 127, didn't play second half, killed his Heisman campaign. Well, we saw how that went. He went from like a super long shot to 10-1 after the Washington State game when he was super fresh and could go for 259. And then even after the Utah State game, only 1/2 for 186. He goes from 10-1 to a little over 2 for 1 in the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman. So to say that he's hurting his chances by only playing one half, people in Vegas and that set these lines, they're very good at their jobs for a reason. And follow the money. That's what the people that make money off this say.
You got to also,
so like. I just think that people are wrong. I'm sorry. In terms of he's hurting his Heisman campaign by sitting the half of blowouts.
They got to also realize that the Heisman committee is also going to take in effect the average. So it's not really, because if you even compare it to Barry Sanders, right now he's blowing Barry Sanders out of the water because his average is higher. He's got way less carries. So honestly, he's probably way fresher than Barry was. 130 versus 95 is just.
So let's talk about Barry Sanders and the record here for a minute, because that is something that everybody's talking about right now. And we will talk about the game, and I want to get to Maddux Madsen and Cam Camper and this defense that continues to be a little bit of a roller coaster, I guess. And then we'll preview the Hawaii game. But talking about Barry Sanders, so his record is 2,628 yards. And that's the record. And you'll always notice this is 11 games next to that. Now, before 2002, they did not count postseason play for your season or all-time career stats. So Barry did play in a 12th game that year. So the real rushing record, in my opinion, is 2,850. That's how many rushing yards Barry had in his 12-game season. That includes his bowl game. And I feel like the NCAA is being lazy in the sense that they don't go back and retroactively correct that stuff because the data is there. Like, yeah, there might not be some FCS teams, lower tier or whatever, that don't compile or have that type of archive, but we all know what Barry rushed for. Like, correct it. His record should be 2,850. So with all that being said, even if Ashton were to get to 26-29, you're going to have a ton of people out there saying, oh, but Barry actually did this, or Barry did his in 11 games, or things like that. So that's why, like, when we get caught up in people's opinions, like, that's going to be there regardless. Yeah. That's why I think the more important thing is if Boise State wins out, they will be in the college football playoff. Like, that's actually something they control. So what do you have to do to give yourself the best chance of that? Keeping Ashton Jeanty as fresh as humanly possible.
Yes.
And by the way, if Boise State were to win out, it means that Ashton's playing incredible ball, which means he's putting up incredible numbers, which means he will be a Heisman candidate.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't know. I've been saying for the last 3 weeks, I'm not sure. I just can't see them letting, someone from Boise State get it, but.
And that's probably the case at the end of this anyways. Like, we know how this award works, but I just don't think they're going to get to the end of this thing, Shane, and be like, oh, Ashton's only got 2,400 yards. You're not voting for him.
Yeah, that's 2,000 in a season alone is just.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's.
And another thing, like, when you get to the end of games and you take away predictability, and I just mentioned, like, Dylan Riley's in at the end of that game, 8 carries, 16 yards. It gets to a point in the game when you're up so big that you're only running the football. Yeah. They know you're only running the football. In most cases, even when opposing defenses know Ashton Jeanty is running the football, he still is able to do, magnificent things. But I just think that by actually just having him play what he did, you're preserving an insane 10.9 yards per carry average. You want to talk about numbers that somebody's going to look at the end of the year. Averaging over a first down per carry is going to carry a little bit of weight, I think.
That's what I was going to say. I think no matter how it happens and where he falls with the yards, he will average more than Barry because he won't have as many carries because we're going to keep the load management.
To your point, it took Ashton 90 carries to get to 1,000 yards. It took Barry Sanders 130 carries, 40 more carries to get to 1,000 yards in their comparative seasons.
Yeah, he's gonna kill the average. Is there a record for average in a season?
There is, and honestly,
off of a minimum amount of carries.
Yeah, I don't know what the benchmark to qualify for a full season per carry is, but at this point in time, Ashton's got a great chance to smash that.
Yeah, I'd imagine around 7, right?
Yeah,
someone.
I mean, Barry averaged 777, but again, 344 carries. Yeah. Hey, look at it this way. And I actually was talking with somebody about this today. And it's awesome that they haven't had to exhaust Ashton in this fashion. When we were talking about the difference between Jay Ajayi and Ashton Jeanty last week, one of the impressive things about Jay was the sheer volume he took on, meaning he caught 45 passes, he had 50 passes. He had 347 carries during the 2024 season, 2014 season. If Ashton Jeanty were to get 347 carries, Shane, he would rush for 3,470 yards.
Correct. Absolutely.
But he doesn't need to. He doesn't need 25 carries to get to 186. He needs 13.
Yep. 2 of them you get 260-plus yarders, and then, you just take your 7-8 a pop and call it a half.
I just disagree with the people that are worried about him coming out and playing 1 or 2 series in the third quarter just to see if he can get a few more stats. I just disagree.
It's not worth it.
I don't think it's worth it. I think that is there any challenge, so they're up, 32 or whatever it was at halftime. Is there any challenge to coming out of the locker room? It was 49-17 at halftime, so they're up 32 at halftime. At that point in time, what is the true mindset of a player coming out in the second half? And is there anything to like, okay, let's get lathered up again so we can get back in and compete in the game? Or is it just safer to shut it down?
If me personally, if I'm Ashton Jeanty and I have 186 yards, 3 touchdowns, 13 carries, and we're up 49-17, and my coach is telling me I'm going to rest, and I've been proved to the #1 spot in the Heisman, you know,
what more do you have to prove that day?
Why me going out is not going to do anything but hurt me.
Yep.
I can only get hurt, have to sit out. You know, obviously we saw that last year. It happens. We can't give him the volume that the people want to see.
Mm-hmm. Well, before we move on, we're going to hear from Spencer Danielson, the head coach of the Boise State football team. This week I asked him his thoughts on not playing Ashton Jeanty in the second half when they have big leads.
He doesn't worry about it one bit, Jay. I mean, this guy's, if it's in 6 overtimes, we got to find a way to win a game. Ashton Jeanty's ready. If we need him for the first half, he's ready. It's a testament to our entire team being able to create some margins for us to be able to get him out sooner. And that's huge in regards to the development of our team and making sure Ashton gets his carries. But, I was talking to multiple scouts and people about him. If people were at practice to watch today, my man is dripping sweat, working his tail off to play really good on Saturday. So if it's whatever the game dictates, we know this is going to be a big-time opponent we're playing. He's ready to play through 4 quarters. If it takes overtime to find a way to win, Ashton Jeanty will be ready.
Before we move on from Ashton Jeanty talk, we might just have to rename the podcast after him. But again, 1,031 yards on the season. That leads the country by over 200 yards. He's averaging 206 rushing yards per game. The next closest is averaging 154. I mean, that's a 60-yard per game, 52 yard per game lead. And then, like I said, #1 in the country in rushing yards. When it comes to carries, he is 15th in the country. So, like, his bang for his buck is just off the charts, averaging 10.9 yards per carry. It's crazy. And then how about this? I'll leave you with yards after contact, Shane, per game. Ashton has 755 yards after contact total this season. The next closest guy is a running back from North Carolina that has 577, and he's played 1 more game than Ashton Jeanty. So nearly a 200-yard advantage. And Omarion Hampton has another game under his belt at North Carolina. So his stats are staggering. He's unbelievable. And I said this before the season, but you need to get to Albertson Stadium and watch this kid if you are a fan of football at all, because he is a generational talent. And I don't know if we'll ever see anything like him ever again.
It's going to be hard to beat, I'll tell you that.
All right. Speaking of stats, the guy throwing the ball has been pretty good lately. And I love waking up on Sunday morning when all these stats finally update and sorting through them and seeing things that stand out, Shane. And one thing that stood out to me this week, I knew Maddux Madsen had a good game. His 209 passer efficiency rating was one of the best of his career. 21 of 25 for 256, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. But when you add up his last 3 games now, he has all of a sudden emerged at the very top of the Mountain West Conference in QB efficiency rating at 150.1. It is the best in the Mountain West at this point in time in the season, Shane.
Kind of helps when you're able to run the ball.
It does. Hey, it does. I agree with you there.
No stacked boxes, I'll tell you that. Or no guys sinking underneath, I guess. With those stacked boxes, you're able to get pretty efficient, get a lot of one-on-one matchups, and it also helps when you have a lot of athletes out there on the perimeter.
Right. What do you think of the way that he's played, though? And you look at the last 3 weeks. Last 3 weeks, he's thrown 8 touchdowns, tied for the 5th most over that span in the FBS. Like, his numbers over these last few weeks are really darn good. He's been efficient inside the red zone. And we'll get a comical quote from Dirk Cutter here about the red zone coming up in just a little bit. But, I think his quarterback efficiency in the red zone is 277 and change. Now, it's probably going to be a little bit higher in the red zone. Not the case for everybody, though. That's second in the FBS to Quinn Ewers of Texas for guys with at least 15 attempts down inside the red zone. 68 quarterbacks, I believe, have at least 15 attempts inside the red zone. Maddux is the second best QB efficiency rating.
I think the vibes I just get is Alex Smith, when he's with the Niners.
Okay.
Got a great run game, and so your job as a quarterback is to not give the game away through the air, which that's exactly what Alex Smith did. He had some times where he could, hit you over top, but for the most part, he was able just to work the ball down the field, not throw a lot of interceptions and not lose you the game and allow himself to lean on the run game.
Yeah. I think that he's really starting to come into his own. He's super comfortable. And actually, I asked Dirk Cutter about it this week. And, you know, these guys were very confident with what they saw out of Maddux in practice earlier in the season. Now they say they're starting to see it on game days, too.
Your coach yells at you a lot and says some swear words to you. You know, most of these players are harder on themselves than any coach is going to be. And when you're the quarterback at Boise State, expectations are high from outside as well as from inside. And living up to those expectations is not always easy. You know, Mad Dog's a perfectionist.
Madsen goes long down the middle. Henry with a catch at the 20, inside the 10, down to the 5-yard line.
Maddux played in this game like I see him quite often. It hasn't showed up, you know, as clear as maybe everybody would like it until this last week. But that's the Mad Dog that I see almost every day.
It's funny because I think we almost forget sometimes Maddux is only a sophomore.
Yeah.
Like, he did get his feet wet last year as a redshirt freshman playing, but he's still pretty young. And like, how for you in your career, Shane, when did you really start to understand and get the rhythm of the routine, of the preparation, of everything that falls under the umbrella of what a student athlete has to deal with? I assume you just don't come out, you know, in the first couple of games and understand how it all works. Like, you probably you go through it, you understand it, you tailor your schedule, you find out what works best for you, and then you go. And it feels like, you know, for Maddux in his first full season as a starter, maybe that's where the rhythm is starting to be established, is right now.
Yeah, for me it was sophomore year. You know, you went through a year of figuring out how it's gonna go, how things, you know, whether it's like just traveling and figuring out your routine and what works, what doesn't work, and you know, how prepared you need to be. And I think that second year it's a huge jump.
Do you remember a critique to your schedule that you made, whether it be, I'm going to go to bed early, I'm going to get up earlier, I'm going to watch a little film because I have more, you know, I have extra time between these two classes? Like, do you remember going back, is it taking an ice bath? I don't know what it might be, but what was it at that point in time where you kind of tweaked your schedule because you knew how to better it for yourself?
So from my freshman year to sophomore year, I remember my freshman year, I used to make sure I knew where I was supposed to be if someone else, you know, got hurt, if I had to go in, that kind of deal. So if this guy goes out and I have to replace him, I have to know all his plays, obviously. But then my second year, what I did is I started learning where everybody had to go. So even if I'm not in on that one and someone goes down, who's coming in, you know, what they have, just kind of knowing everything as a whole and just learning everything as a whole, which helped me learn the offense better.
Yeah. So you learn it like that, and then for Maddux too, I also think he understands where he wants to go with the football now too.
Yeah.
Matt Lauder, really good after the catch for a tight end. Yeah. Latrell Caples, man, give Latrell Caples a hand, by the way, because early in the week last week, you know, we didn't know this till later in the week when Spencer clued us in after during the post-game press conference.
Start of the week, it was like, he's doubtful. And my man said, screw that. I'm going to find a way to play.
Latrell was hurt earlier in the week still, and he was viewed as doubtful. And then he said he was determined to play, and all of a sudden later in the week, they're talking with trainers, and they're like, yeah, he's done everything he needed to do to get in this game. And then he shows up early on and makes a catch, and you know, he didn't play a ton, but I thought it was awesome just to even see him because we had no idea when he was going to come back after that injury. But in terms of, you know, where to go with the football for Maddux, yeah, number 9 Cam Camper is a great direction to go with the football.
Yeah, he's, like we said, he's came into his own. He's the guy. You know, we've been looking to see who it's going to be. It's for sure him.
I loved on the first touchdown throw of the day from Maddux to Cam Camper. They leave one of the ends unblocked to rush Maddux. And Maddux has this cool calmness that he's still trying to look off somebody with this guy rushing him, and he knows that he can come right back to Cam Camper. And Cam sticks his foot in the ground, runs this beautiful route. Guy over the top loses inside leverage. Maddux puts it up top. I mean, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was poetry when it comes together like that.
Yep. I'm telling you, it's just if we can continually try to get the ball out fast, I think that's going to help Maddux. And I think, honestly, next year might be the year we see the biggest jump from him. You know,
because a little more is probably going to be on his plate.
Yep. We're going to have to lean on him more. And so it'll be the year where we'll see him kind of cut it loose and kind of get back to the vertical stretch that we're used to seeing throughout the offense.
10 guys caught a pass on Saturday. Guys like Prince Strawn, over 40 yards receiving, gets significantly involved.
Yeah.
Austin Bolt catches 2 passes. Cam Camper's a dude that was heavily involved. Chase Penry, Matt Lauder had a few catches again, 33 yards, had a nice run after the catch down near the red zone too. What's it like to go back in a wide receiver room after a game like that and to not have one guy with 14 catches for 180? You come back and there's like 5 dudes that walk through the door with 4 catches for 60 or more yards, and there's 10 total guys that caught a pass. Like, I would assume there's a little more juice collectively in the room.
In the room, now you have guys who are more locked in because everybody feels like they're involved, you know? So it's not like your first 3 guys are getting all the catches in. Number 4 through, let's say, 8 are not touching it. And then as far as game planning, how do you game plan against every receiver when they throw it anywhere?
Yeah, and I think that some of the things we heard about this offense coming in is how deep the wide receivers are, that room is. Maddux Madsen's efficient, high completion percentage, still explosive.
Yep.
And all that just is set up off of what Ashton Jeanty does. And I love some of the things we saw. I mean, you could point to moments in every game where you liked what you saw out of the offense. But I think against Utah State is like we finally saw the full complement. Like we saw so much get involved, whether it be Maddux or Ashton or a number of wide receivers. And that for me now, when they go to Hawaii, I would love to see a similar performance because now like the consistency of that would show me they have turned the corner. This is who they are.
You give your 12 to 15 carries to Ashton in the first half. Outside of that, we got to keep working on the pass game. We got to because it's coming. We haven't hit it yet where someone's able to actually stop him.
Dude, okay.
It's coming though.
Okay, this is, for me, okay, so I'm gonna use the old trap game cliche to eventually get to your point. I think when everybody unless you're Bama and Vandy last week, I don't know, but whatever. But I just feel like when everybody calls it a trap game, can it really be a trap game?
It can.
Really?
You come out and
I just feel like if everybody's calling it one though, doesn't that make you go, okay? Like I feel like there's like San Diego State after a UNLV is more of a trap game just because like, I don't know, San Diego State's had good years and maybe they're not great this year, so you'll just overlook them a little bit. But if everybody's like, Hawaii's a trap game, then you've got to be like, yeah, okay, they're probably right, so let's not overlook
They come out with 9 in the box and say we're just gonna man up,
right?
And they're bringing pressure and we just can't get it off in time enough to complete it. It can get rough.
Okay, so that's where it gets to my point of like Ashton Jeanty. Like everybody says it's coming, but I think
there's no way. I just can't. He's got to have a game where he only rushes for the normal.
What's a normal amount?
Running
What's
back,
normal? Does
100 yards a game?
Does anybody hold him under 100 this year?
Oof. In a full game or in a half?
In a full game. When he walks off the field at the end of a game.
With 25 carries, there's no way he stays under 100.
Right. So who's holding him under 100?
You can get 75 from one, he scores 1 touchdown, but then the rest of the game he only gets 25 yards.
That ain't happening.
If that happens, we're in a sticky situation.
It's not happening. I'm not worried about it. It's not happening.
It's possible.
Okay, so Hawaii does have, on paper, Hawaii does have the best rush defense in the conference.
Do they have the worst passing defense in the conference? Because if so, then that's why it's skewed. Because everyone just comes out and throws the ball.
I don't think so because I actually think that they do have a pretty good overall defense, pass defense. Hawaii, no, they're number 2. They're number 2. Number 2 in pass defense. Yards per game allowed, they're number 2. Quarterback efficiency rating by an opponent, they're number 4, so they slip a little bit there. But they've been okay. But I'm sorry, I don't see anybody. You look at the teams they've played, San Diego State, crap on offense. Northern Iowa is an FCS school. Sam Houston State just was an FCS school. UCLA, they suck. Delaware State, FCS school. So they haven't played anybody, man. When we look
San Diego State doesn't throw it.
No, so Ashton Jeanty's going to hit them, and it's just going to be the craziest thing that this defense has seen all year.
Every week
they're not stopping him. I would love to act like I'm going overboard here or saying too much, but I'm not at 99% confidence. I am at the 100.0% confidence level that Ashton Jeanty is going to go get his this weekend, and because of it, Boise State's going to go get theirs this weekend.
Every week I go in, I'm like, okay, is this linebacker core going to be able, just to make the tackle on the first, and it's just
No. I jokingly said there was a play in the second quarter. Ashton makes a good move and then gets a little bit of daylight, and he was one-on-one with the safety, and the safety actually tackled him one-on-one. And he got up afterwards and he was hurt. But the safety actually got him down one-on-one, and I was joking like, hey, defensive player of the week right there. Because we haven't seen that all year.
Yeah, it's tough. And you just watch it, and he does the same thing to everyone. I'm like, there's no way.
How about one more offensive note before we turn this thing into defense? Boise State right now, Shane, the #1 scoring offense in the country. No other team in college football is averaging over 50 points per game. Boise State is the only one at 50.6 points per game.
It's pretty crazy.
That's a lot of points. That's a lot of points.
I know.
The lowest they've scored was 34 at Oregon.
There was #3 team in the country.
There was a massive stretch there, by the way, where Boise State didn't average 34 points per game in a season. That's the floor for this team, apparently. At Oregon, the #3 team in the country. And I don't know if you've looked, everybody focused on Boise State in the AP top 25. They're now up to 17, by far the highest ranked group of 5 program. But all of a sudden, Oregon now is at 3. They host Ohio State this weekend. They win that game.
We need it.
Yeah.
If Oregon beats Ohio State, Boise State has to be in the top 10. They have to be. You lost to 3 to #3 team in the country, who beat, what is Ohio State, 4 or 5?
Yeah, they're up there. Mm-hmm.
We have to be.
I think it's 3 versus 4 this week in Eugene. That'd be a fun game to go to. I thought Autzen was awesome when we went there. I'm excited to go back again in a few years and watch the Broncos there. On top of that, though, like we talk about opponents and stuff like that, Oregon's given up like 71 rushing yards per game outside of the 221 that Boise State hit them for, which Ashton Jeanty had 192 of those yards. Like, Oregon has a really good defense, people, and their run defense is really good, people. Ashton Jeanty just skewed their numbers.
Yeah, and we're kind of helping Oregon too, because they barely beat us, but we're kind of beating people by 25 and 35 points every week. So it looks like a good win for them, and it looks like a good loss for us.
Yep.
So it's kind of a little give and take. I'm rooting for Oregon though this week. I need them to take them down.
I don't know if that's painful for Boise State fans or not, but in years like this, it can only help. And now we're getting to the point where it is full-on conversation about Boise State making the college football playoff. Like I just said, they are by far the highest-ranked team in the AP top 25. Now there's another poll that's going to come out in a few weeks that is more meaningful than the AP top 25, but it's still a little bit of a precursor of what we can expect, I believe.
I think we're higher in that one than this one.
I think I have a tough time doubting that, Shane. The good thing about that poll is it comes out to the point in the season, too, where, for example, when the AP poll first comes out, I'm just going to use Oregon, for example. If Oregon was 3 and they lost the season opener, it's not like they're dropping them out of the poll and completely reevaluating them. There's people out there like, oh, it's still Oregon. We can't drop them too far. We'll put them at 9.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about the college football playoff polls, it comes out so late in the season, or at least at the point where you're just evaluating that season.
Yep.
So you're not thinking like, oh, Boise State started it outside the top 25. How high can we actually slot them?
Yeah.
Like if we think they're 12 in the country, if they're outside the AP top 25, we just can't put them at 12.
Yeah.
They have to work their way up. This poll comes out a little bit later, so I feel like you get that real true evaluation. But if there's a chance, man, where Shane, if they win out, they very well could. They might have. If they win out, considering all the other things that can go on in college football and all the other conferences, I doubt it, but there's a chance they get a bye. But maybe they could host a playoff game, but definitely get into a playoff game. And if Ashton can lead them to there, you're talking about, you have to begin the conversation, is he the greatest in program history? And if they win a game at the college football playoff, oh, man.
Recruiting. That changes recruiting.
So if Boise State is going to have a chance to do that, though, I will say this. They got to find a way to get a little more consistent on defense. And I think the best way to describe kind of their performance against Utah State is it did feel like they lacked a little bit of a sense of urgency. And I do think, like, playing hard and having a sense of urgency, they can be two different things. Like, you can still play really hard, but when you're up 30 points and there's a 3rd and 4, like, you're just kind of trying to, like, maybe just do your job. Mm-hmm. If it was a 3-point game, you have to get off the freaking field.
Yep.
Like, the sense of urgency is just heightened.
It's
And
true.
sometimes when you're up 30, it's a little bit hard to mimic that, especially when maybe you have a few second stringers in there too, or a different group of personnel at times. And so I just felt like they started the game with a sack, and I was like, oh man, this really is going to be a blowout. And then they just, they give up 30, and a lot of those came in the second half, and some big plays. I think 9 plays. Big plays the problem. 9 plays, Shane, accounted for 281 yards for Utah State. So 64 plays, Boise State allows about 230 yards. 64 plays, about 230. I mean, you'll take that any day of the week.
Yep.
But on the other 9, they give up 281, and most of their points too.
Yeah, explosives. That's what it comes down to, explosives. I think the goal used to be we want to hold them to less than 4 or 5 explosives a game.
Well, that was over by halftime, that goal. You need to reset it after that.
Yeah, so that's the goal. So obviously, I know, but it's like you said, the pace of the game changes tremendously when you go in 49-17. You got younger guys in, and like you said, if you're an older guy and you're still in, your sense of urgency, you're just kind of trying to get out of there.
I think there's 2 ways to look at it. One of them is well, I think going back, I'm sure other coaches have used this before, but Pete always says, the film's never as bad as it looks. It's also never as good as it looks, right?
True.
And when you look at Boise State's defensive stats, I don't believe they're, one of the worst, 100 teams in college football in terms of defense. But you can't also you can't completely ignore the stats, because they do kind of define what you are at the same time. And so, there are certain things where at the end of a second half, and your opponent snapping the ball 70 yards from the field, and the quarterback just takes off on a draw versus a prevent defense and picks up 30 yards.
Yep.
Like, you do your job, you get them out of bounds, you end the half, no field goal attempts, but it does skew your rushing stat numbers, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, that doesn't look so good anymore. So I do think there's a little bit of that going on, but you also can't just completely dismiss, they do have to get better on defense.
Yeah, but if you look at the 2 toughest games they played, Washington State, they played hard the entire game because obviously it's a huge game.
Yep.
Tough opponent. Give up 24. Then you look at Oregon, the defense only gives up 20 points.
Correct.
Well, 23.
23. Yeah, and that's something that, again, we're going to have to keep reminding ourselves later on in the season. To only give up 23 points to Dylan Gabriel, that Ducks offense, it's pretty darn good, man.
So it's tough. It's like the big games you've seen, they've played it through, and the defense showed up like no other in Oregon.
Sense of urgency.
But then you get the games where the blowouts occur, and
sense of urgency.
It's kind of like, all right,
how do we get off the field? We need this stuff.
The game's over. Let's just kind of roll with it.
Going through the motions of certain things versus that feeling your back's against the wall. We got to get off the field right now.
That's the only thing that doesn't make me too worrisome about it. I'm sure they're talking about that inside there. But they definitely skews the numbers with blowouts.
Right. I just think, so we have seen the dominant efforts from the offense so far where it seems like nothing can stop them. Ready to see a defensive effort like that, and not against a Portland State, against a Mountain West team that you should handle, maybe a Hawaii. Yeah. This is a good chance. Hawaii, they throw the ball around the yard quite a bit, the run and shoot, all that stuff. The difference between Hawaii and Utah State actually runs the ball okay. I actually thought their running back is a little underrated. He's a pretty good ball player. And I'm just going to say Jalen Rhodes. Can't remember if I said his name so far this podcast. He's phenomenal, that wide receiver. Hawaii doesn't really have a running back like that at their disposal, so I do think this game will be a little bit more one-dimensional where you start to shut down the pass, and I don't think you have to worry about the run as much against Hawaii.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully we have the same pass rush we've had all year, because that has been top-notch.
It has. Still one of the best in the country. Ahmed Hassanin has now had a sack in 4 straight games. He had a stretch last year with 9 straight games with a sack. Just a really talented kid that plays at a really, really high effort, high level, and he's maybe playing the most consistent football of his career. But I will say this, and the defense took a lot of hits last game, and the time that he had a sack, it was a coverage sack. They covered it up beautifully, and he was the beneficiary of that and got a sack because of it. So it wasn't all bad. There was just enough of it that it made it seem bad, though. As we look forward, though, a bye week next week before UNLV, having to focus on Hawaii, I'm not buying into this as a trap game. And that just could be me. I just think that, especially after a little bit of a slip on defense against Utah State, I think that they go in really focused and they take care of business, man. I mean, Hawaii's a 20-point underdog on their home field. The Rainbow Warriors have a habit of playing teams tough on the island. I just don't think that they have anywhere near the manpower to slow this Boise State team down, and especially Ashton Jeanty down.
Yeah, if we get in that situation where it's starting to feel like a trap game, you just let Jeanty run for 20 instead of 13.
Right? I mean, that's always the option.
Yeah.
We always give score predictions. I almost feel like we now need to start adding Ashton Jeanty stat line predictions. You were pretty close last week when we were talking.
I said it. There was no way he was going to get 192 because he was not going to play the whole game.
And that was the case.
Yeah.
Apparently, I think I saw this on Twitter. Ashton Jeanty's over/under for rushing yards was one of the most bet prop lines on.
Were they taking the under or the over?
They're over. Yeah, and we said this, though. You're right. We said this, I don't know if he's in enough carries.
He's not going to play enough.
And he comes within 5 or 6 yards of it, and they shut him down in the second half.
186.
It just seemed like he was going to blow it out of the water, and they shut him down in the second half. I don't feel like that should
Do you know what his line is this week?
I don't know what his line is this week. Maybe I can try to search it really quick. But what do you?
Find it for you.
Give me a. What do you think? What do you think it is?
The line?
Like for me, I'm thinking right off the top. Hawaii's got a pretty good rush defense, so it's going to be a little bit lower than last week.
I feel like the odds.
It's going to be 166.
And I think they're going to take account that he won't play the whole game, too.
Yeah.
They're starting to see that. It's already happened twice, so it skews the lines. Honestly, 160, I take 160. I take over 160. That's not enough.
Okay, I think I got it here.
It doesn't make me wince at all, 160.
It looks like over under. Oh no, this was still applying to last game. So I don't even know. I don't know if his over under is out for this week's game yet.
Yeah, that's just not enough.
I'll give you my stat line though. I'm going to go 16 carries for 205 yards. Wow, he's going to go do this, man.
200 yards?
Yeah, he's going to get 2.
16 carries?
Yeah, he's going to get 2.
I
think Mia Kimes tweeted this out last week, and I laughed at it. I was sitting there watching the Miami Cal game. Great comeback by Cam Ward from Washington State Cougar. Another Heisman hopeful in that game. And she tweeted something along the lines of, if I woke up tomorrow and somebody said that Ashton Jeanty rushed for 758 yards and 7 touchdowns or whatever it was, I got to actually go, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds about right. He's getting to that point. Any stat line you see, oh, yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, here's my guess. I think your line is going to be at 200.
200 rushing yards for him. Mm-hmm. Okay, well,
because he's averaging around 206 right now.
Okay, so I guess I'm going over then.
I think he's going to be sitting there about 200.
Then I'm going over. I think that being on the road is just. I think the game stays tight enough, just long enough for him to maybe get those extra couple of carries that puts him over that mark.
It's hard, because I don't know if he gets 200 in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
Every game he's played in the second half, we know we're going to get 200. But I don't know if we're going to get 200 in one half.
I don't think we'll get 200 and a half. I think he plays a little bit in the third quarter. I think it's going to be close enough to where he plays a few series in the third quarter, and then it's over.
So if it's 35-7, does he come out playing?
35-7 at halftime?
Yeah.
35-7. Conference game on the road, up 28. I feel like the halftime magic number's got to be closer to 30. And I know you're really close at 28, but I think you might see him.
One drive?
I think you might see him. And if they score on that drive and it goes to 42-7, I feel like that. There's a magic number out there. Now, we're not going to find out what that is. The coaches aren't going to tell us that because then we're going to all hold them way too accountable for it. And I think it does matter on who the opponent is.
Yeah.
If you were at Oregon up 28, there's no way. You're absolutely riding with Ashton Jeanty in the second half. But if you're up 28 or 30 in the third quarter against Utah State, Hawaii, then I think that's where the tipping point is of, hey, let's get another guy a few carries here. Mm-hmm. And just see how that goes and evaluate. And it doesn't mean that they can't correct this late in the game. I don't know if many people noticed this, but late in the Utah State game, after a couple of explosive plays, Boise State did put some of their starters back in. Ashton Jeanty wasn't one of them, but a number of their starting offensive linemen went back in. Maddux Madsen went back in. Breezy Dubar ended up scoring a touchdown, and then that was finally like, okay, now we're really good.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean they can't correct it in the game.
Yep. All right, so here's what I have for you. I say we cover 20 points. I don't think that is
I think they cover 20 points.
nearly close.
I worry about the over/under 60.5.
I think we get that too, because we're going to score 50 points ourselves.
Do you think Boise State gets that, or the whole game?
Yeah, we're going to get 50 ourselves. So
Yeah.
I think we cover the spread, not even close. I think we hit the over.
Yeah.
And I think
People, Boise State, I mean, now that you really say this, and again, I always have to say, like, never take my betting advice, because I usually feel like I've been okay lately, but you never know when it's going to turn. Boise State's averaging 50.6 points per game. The over-under collectively for both Hawaii and Boise State is 60.5.
it's free money.
I didn't say it. Shane said it.
It's free money. Yeah, over, spread. Depending on if Jeanty is at like around 160, you take the over and you hammer it. If it's at 200, you gotta think how last
A little
week
bit
went.
about how
It's literally you'll be in the same predicament as
Yeah.
last week, depending on if he's gonna play the second half or not.
Yeah. We'll see if the defense can
Take the first half. If you take the first half yards, they'll probably like 120. I
bet
take
you
that all day.
I don't know what the first half line is too, but that'd be an interesting one to consider, because
probably the way
Boise
to
State
go.
has played pretty good in the first half this year. All right, Broncos on the road again, 20.5 point favorites, 60.5 is the over/under. They're 4-1 on the season, trying to move to 2-0 in Mountain West Conference play and improve to 5-1 overall. And I like the energy of this team, and we'll see if they can make an exclamation mark going into their second bye week of the season, which I personally cannot wait for. Love those bye weeks.
Do love those bye weeks.
Yeah. All right. For Shane Williams-Rhodes, we appreciate all of you for listening and watching. I'm Jay Tust. This is Jay Sports Bar, serving the Idaho sports community.